my son last Monday was 18 years of age. He's awfully mad that he was 6 days late in getting to vote. Very mad. The second thing, last night they're in the district championship playing football, and so it may compensate for it somewhat. Mr. Chairman, I want to point out to you folks, whether you recognize it or not, we lost the election in Texas.
Jim, hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
I want to say that Texas owes this Texas legend a great deal of gratitude for his involvement in public service throughout the years. I can remember when I was a young lawyer, Jim Mattox, I was a young prosecutor in Dallas County, and Jim Mattox offered me a job to come down here and work for him when he was an attorney general. Couldn't come down because of family considerations, but I will always appreciate that, and we appreciate your service to the great state of Texas.
Royce, you're going on to bigger and better things. What I want to say to you folks, look, you're not dealing with a Gordian knot here. This is not something that you can't untie. The thing that you don't seem to understand is that the caucus actually does not have anything to do with what took place here in Texas. What took place is we had 2 damn good candidates, strong as ever. Their team of people moved people from the houses to the polls. Now, they also moved some people to some precinct conventions, but they could just as easily have spent more time moving more people to the polls had they want to. But again, I want to point out to you, we still lost the elections in Texas. Right. We had some good candidates running for the statewide offices for judge. Yep. We lost them. Despite this caucus system everybody seems to revere. But I want to point out to you, and I know I don't have a lot of time, but if I may, I want to point out to you, it's interesting to me that we're meeting in a union hall. And I'm going to say, I'm opposed to this caucus system as it currently is, and I'm in favor of this one-step process, but I want to point out to you, the Department of Labor points out that between 7 and 8 p.m., 22.5% of the adults are working or in related work activities on a Tuesday night. You're disenfranchising those people. And you go right on down the line, even between 8 and 9 o'clock, 18% of the people are still working. And Mr. Chairman, I might add to you, our black citizens and Hispanic citizens make up a much heavier portion of the people that are working at night, actually. This system that we've got, and I must say, I've been participating in it. I was a precinct chair, and I participated in it since 1966, and every precinct convention since that time. In this last time, I participated in the precinct. I was elected a delegate through the precinct, through our county convention, and then all the way to the national convention too. So I am fully aware of the process of organizing. What I understand is that we've been to some of these conventions, presidential years, I might add, where we didn't have any candidates particularly, and we had a hard time getting enough people to that convention to even fill out our delegate list. It's happened. Now this last time, sure, I love seeing all those tremendous number of people, but just yesterday, we went over here and worked in the Obama statewide major campaign here in town. Interesting enough, and this is just kind of sidewise, while let me tell you, we were cleaning out the headquarters, and it's a whole lot easier to clean it out when you win an election than when you lose an election, but there were still only about 5 of us there. Interesting enough, I found 2 packets, the precinct reporting packets, in the headquarters that had never been turned in. Now let me tell you folks, this system we've got is an expensive system. It's an unintelligible system. It is an acrimonious system across the board. It is subject to misconduct. It's subject to fraud. It's subject to manipulation. It's unfair. It's uncertain. It's inaccurate. And it's an embarrassment to our party. It would take a mathematical genius to figure out the allocation formulas. And I guarantee you throughout the state, I suspect that half the precincts did not accurately figure out their mathematical formulas. And I submit to you today, among you folks And these folks out here today, I bet you that we cannot come up with the exact interpretation of the rules. There are 3 lawyers working in the Hillary Clinton campaign, and the 3 of us could not work out and figure out some of the rules to be used in the caucuses. You couldn't figure it out. Not only because the lawyers couldn't figure it out, and Mr. Adamahal, I want to tell you something. When you start talking about it all be run by Robert's Rules of Order, there's not 5 people in this room that understand what the Robert's Rules of Order are about and how they operate. And I submit to you, among the group that you've got right here, you folks do not understand this caucus system either. Even though all the testimony you've heard, you still do not understand the system. These folks out here don't understand the system. And I've been through it, and I've studied it, and I tried to direct people in, and I don't understand the system. What I think needs to happen is this. I'll make 3 recommendations to you. The first recommendation is we ought to keep a caucus. And we ought to keep the caucus and encourage people, encourage the candidates to encourage their people to come to the caucus. But all the ballot, all the delegates should be selected based on the vote that takes place in the primary. And the final delegate selection should take place there at the state convention after they're all allocated. You know, it's an embarrassment to the Democratic Party in Texas that all through until just before the national convention, we couldn't even tell the people on a national level how many delegates we had to allocate towards each candidate. We didn't know. We couldn't figure it out. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm not sure we know today. I really am. And I guarantee you, I can offer you, and I can go through the records of some of the protesters filed, and I can show you ample examples of actual fraud and manipulation taking place in the process. Actual examples of, just like the one somebody testified a moment ago, somebody being selected to be a delegate to the state convention had never even voted in the district before. There are all kinds of examples, and we could go through some. I gave you the first recommendation is we keep the caucus and we encourage the candidate. Second thing is the Democratic Party ought to spend the money and the time and effort to make the caucus an educational event. So that when people come to the caucus, they come there and they're being educated about how to organize, how to get out to vote, how to raise money, how to help the candidates, and it ought to be done. That ought to happen at the precinct convention. It ought to happen at the district or county conventions, and it ought to happen at the state convention. Listen, I've been to 4 national conventions, and I've been to every state convention. And those conventions are a waste of damn time. Amen. They're a waste of time. We hear some people speak at the state convention. Well, it doesn't do us any good. We walk out of there. We're not organized. We don't have any information. We don't have any packets. We don't have anything going on. What needs to happen is that convention needs to lead us out of there with all the information we need to be able to win our state. And we should be using that, and we should restructure these conventions for that educational purpose. And I know I've already exceeded my time, but let me make 2 other suggestions too quickly. Mr. Chairman, I know that the Republicans are going to try to push forward with this issue of requiring a driver's license, some kind of identification to vote. May I suggest to you what we need to do is to say that anybody that's got a driver's license or an identification card is able to vote on election day, and that is a registration form. The registration list ought to come out of and be run by and come through not just anybody that's on the DPS list ought to be added to the Secretary of State's list, and it ought to be combined together. I'm not saying have just the driver's license or the identification card is the only method. I'm saying have it as one method, so that every time if you've got a driver's license, you're automatically registered, and you're registered in the precinct wherever your home is, and that's the way it ought to be. Back years ago, I tried to get them simply to send out voter registration cards every time you got a new driver's license. We couldn't even get that out of the DPS. And then the last thing is, when we're going through these polls, remember this: on election day, it's the only time when we're going to see all of our Democrats at one time.